Hello, and welcome back to today's episode of the Breadwinner Podcast. I'm your host, Caroline, and as always, I am here to talk all things sourdough microbakery business. Specifically, we are all about building a business that you love, that supports the needs of your household, and that does not lead to burnout. Today's episode is coming out on Tuesday, and usually I share my episodes on Thursday. We are late and for good reason this week, and I'm going to talk about it. You know, if you've been listening for any amount of time, that one of my most frequent phrases is burnout proofing your business. I am all about building a business that is not going to wear you out because I have seen so many bakers just burn themselves out, push through, say yes to everything, and they lose the joy and the fun and the motivation in what they're doing. So today's discussion is going to be a very candid talk on burnout coming from me in an incredibly full season. I am spread very, very thin. And last week, I had not yet gotten my episode recorded, and I had to make the decision not to try to push through, but rather to give myself some grace and give myself a few days and come back to it. So this is going to be a little bit of a heart to heart. I'm sharing kind of what my life looks like right now and how I'm feeling. I'm feeling like my energy and resources are low. And I'm going to talk about what I'm doing to protect against burnout right now when it is very, very crucial. You know, I am an open book and I share all the things, the hard, the wonderful, what I'm learning, what I'm doing wrong, how I'm moving forward. And in this season, this very, very full season, instead of just pushing through and acting like everything is going perfectly, no hiccups, so smooth, absolutely dreamy, I'm pulling back the curtain a little bit and talking about what it looks like to be very close to burnout and how we can catch it before we completely derail. And as always, you know, I love to give some tangible, actionable tips and resources. So I'm going to kind of talk through a little self-audit that I've utilized and that you can also utilize to kind of check in and see how you're doing, how your energy levels are holding up, and whether or not you need to kind of do a little bit of proactive burnout prevention. So for me, burnout is not dramatic. It's more subtle. It's not just a total crash and burn, but it sneaks in and then builds up. And I notice that I am dragging my feet on things that might excite me. I am not baking for fun as much or playing with new recipes. Maybe I am starting to dread or avoid the simple tasks that really are just kind of second nature, no big deal. Sometimes I even catch myself starting to avoid my own kitchen, which is a pretty big red flag for a baker. So if you are nodding along, if any of that sounds like something you experienced or felt like you're getting close to, you're not alone. Burnout really can look different for everyone, but it often shows up as physical exhaustion, even after you've got a good night's sleep, mental fog, decision fatigue. Sometimes I just feel like I cannot decide one more thing. Losing the joy in your work is a really big one. If the things that you used to absolutely love doing don't feel joyful anymore, that's a big indicator that you need to take a beat. Just do something that does bring you joy, but without monetizing it maybe. Maybe just close your orders for a week and take a week off. And then another kind of symptom would be feeling like you're just kind of going through the motions. You're just doing things because they have to be done, checking the box. So there are weeks where I've kind of just pushed past these signs, and it's okay once or twice, but if you are consistently pushing beyond your physical limits, muscling through these things that don't bring you joy and doing it repeatedly, it's not going to end well. It impacts family and impacts business, it impacts creativity, and over time, that is what results in just burnout, in not wanting to do this work anymore. And I've seen that, like I said, happen to so many bakers, and it makes me sad. So I have learned that recognizing the early signs is key to staying healthy, keeping my business sustainable. And of course, we talk all the time about establishing systems and creating rhythms and knowing how to set boundaries that protect your energy and that preserve your sanity so that you can say yes to the things that bring you joy and you don't get bogged down in all of the daily minutiae. But if you do get to the point, like I have been at, where you are just in a very full season, where the reality is you have a lot more to do than you have time, and maybe you don't have a lot of local support, maybe finances are thin, and you are pushing through and doing all the things and just at the end of your rope, which is kind of where I've been lately and where I am just being very mindful of how I make my decisions. So let's go through just a little bit of self audit. It doesn't have to be complicated, just a few simple questions, but I'm going to walk you through a few questions that I ask myself and that you can ask yourself. The first is an energy check. Are you waking up tired more days than not? If the answer is yes, then that's a good clue to slow down. There have been multiple nights in the last couple of weeks where I really had a lot of work to do. And I could have stayed up and opened up my laptop after the kids went to bed and cranked out a little bit more work. And I chose not to. I chose to take some valerian and turn off my phone and go to sleep a little bit earlier because I've realized that sleep deprived me is not a great version of Caroline. Tired me does not make great decisions, does not respond well to fighting children, does not respond well to frustration with my husband. I am a much better version of myself when I'm well rested, and the emails that I need to write and the sales page that I need to set up will wait, but I will not be able to do them if I am exhausted. So that's kind of where I've been a little bit. I have been prioritizing sleep in ways that make sense as much as possible. I am still shooting for 7 to 8 hours a day. 8 hours of sleep is optimal for me. I feel so much better with that than even with 7. So I'm doing that as much as possible. Now there are days where, like, I had a marathon on Saturday and I woke up at 5:30 because I had to, because I had the last things finished in the oven and some packaging to finish. But as much as possible, whenever I can, I sleep a little bit later or I go to bed a little bit earlier. Okay, after your energy check, after you've asked if you are waking up tired more often than not, think about how you can slow down. Think about how you can proactively and protect your rest. Maybe even sneak a nap in the afternoon. I've taken a couple of naps recently. Number 2 is a joy check. At first glance, this might seem a little bit silly, but this is really, really important. Are you still enjoying the core parts of your work? We have a really fun job, and most of us started because we just love baking. We love playing in the kitchen, trying new recipes. We love the joy of seeing other people eat the food and enjoy the things that we've created. But if that starts to feel like drudgery and we start to dread it, let's pay attention to that. Maybe you love the mixing dough normally, or maybe you love talking with customers, but that's starting to feel heavy. That is a red flag. Note that on your self audit if any of those things that generally bring you joy don't feel joyful. Third, check in on your focus. Are you getting distracted constantly? Are you struggling to finish tasks that usually are not a struggle, that usually would take you no time at all? Are you having a hard time sitting down and just knocking out the list, rather multitasking and getting nothing done very well? And maybe sometimes that's my mode anyway, whether I'm rested or not. But if I do notice that my focus is just really struggling very consistently, or I'm struggling with a task that should feel easy, that's another indicator that something's off. And then fourth is a relationship check. How am I showing up with my family, with my friends? If you have team members, are you snappy? Are you withdrawn? Are you too drained to engage? I have definitely seen that I am not showing up as my best self in my marriage recently. My husband is wonderful. He was out of town for 2 solid weeks. He just got back the other night, which is a contributor to my stress levels. But he definitely, before he left, he prepped so many meals for us, more than we could actually eat our way through. And now he's back and he is picking up the slack. He's homeschooling the kids and really taking care of a lot of things. But I definitely have felt that my my patience has been thin. I have noticed moments with my children where I've had to really consciously think about the way that I was responding. I can think of one specific moment in the kitchen a couple of nights ago, and they're 7 and 8, almost 9. They were unloading the dishwasher together and just being absolutely silly, fun, joyful children. Very loud with their shirts on their heads and singing silly songs. And it was the end of the night, kind of the last thing before winding down for bed. And for a moment, I thought about telling them to stop singing, like, just do your job, please. And I had to check myself. And I took a breath and I thought, you know what? They are doing their job. They're doing what I asked them to do. And they're doing it with so much joy. And they're having fun together. And they're just in their own little world. And so that was a really conscious moment where I had to choose to appreciate the way that they were carrying out their task and notice and be thankful for the joy that they had with them rather than reactively coming from my exhaustion and telling them to stop. That is very much like a parenting tangent more than a sourdough, but it ties into this exhaustion and burnout. And 92% of my audience is female. I know a lot of you are mothers, and I'm certain that you probably relate to moments in the kitchen where you've got to take a deep breath before you react to your kids. So, if you too are experiencing those moments, you are not alone. You are not a bad mom. You are just in need of support, of rest, and of taking a moment to just maybe take a bath. I took a bath last week. Maybe it was that same night. I don't remember. But I've taken a few moments where I just unplug, leave my phone away, maybe read fiction, maybe do nothing. When you feel like this is coming from personal experience, I will say when I feel like I have no time to slow down, that is exactly the time when I need to slow down. If I feel like I am too spread thin, too scheduled, too busy to take a bath in the evening, to take a 20-minute walk around the neighborhood, to stop and call a friend for a little bit, that tells me that I am making choices, maybe not using my time well, maybe I need to ask for help. That is probably the biggest one for me personally. This is something that I am actively learning in this season of life, and it is very hard. But as an incredibly independent person who is very accustomed to just powering through and doing everything by myself, I'm in a season where I'm learning to call in the village. I have not historically really built a local village, and so this season is teaching me a lot. Just today, I had a sweet new friend come and help me. She scrubbed a dirty table in the bakery and then started sanding it down. And that felt weird to me. It felt weird to say, yes, please help me. I'm not paying you for this, but I need help. And she was happy to do it. And you may or may not relate. Maybe you have a village who's eager to help. But if you're like me, where this is a muscle that you're just learning to exercise, I'm right there with you. But it is so, so needed. And especially when you're in a very full season with so many demands on your time and energy, having that village, having someone to fall back on, even if it's just one friend, even if it's just saying yes to the offer for help that feels weird, do it. Just do it. This is coming, like I said, this is just a candid heart-to-heart talk, and it's all coming straight from what I'm learning right now in this season. And so I know it's easier said than done. If you are like me and you struggle with asking for help, it feels vulnerable. Maybe it feels like admitting that you are not strong enough to do it yourself, but maybe you're not. But there is strength in accepting that help too. Again, I'm preaching to the choir, but I hope that this is also encouraging to you a little bit. So after we have gone through that self-audit, our energy check, our joy check, our focus check, and our relationship check, let's just jot down those answers in a notebook. And sometimes seeing those written down makes the patterns clear. Because like we said, burnout does not always just look like a dramatic crash and burn. It can be slow and kind of creep in, and it's just one thing building after another, and the need for rest and all the things kind of piling up. And then before you know it, you are just, maybe you're fighting a cold on the couch on a day when you needed to be baking, or you are just too worn out to put together your menu for the week. And so you are beating yourself up over something that feels hard but should be easy, when those burnout signs maybe have been missed. So burnout does not mean that you're weak, does not mean that you're failing. It is not a reflection on you as a person, you as a business owner, you as a mother, as a father, as a human being. It just means that your system needs support. And it just means that you maybe need to say no to a few things, as scary as that might sound. Maybe you need to ask for a little bit more help. So let's talk about a few more simple, practical ways to take those signs and shift into prevention mode. So here are some of the things that I am doing and some of the things that I could do to make sure that this really, really full season does not end in a crash and burn. Because if I'm not proactive right now, if I do power through, inevitably I can feel that that's where I'm going. I would end up avoiding the things that I need to be responsible for. I would end up missing payments on things, forgetting to pay bills, piling up late fees. I have had this happen several years ago in the past. A business that I owned ended in burnout because I did not know how to look for the signs, and I did not know how to prevent them. And so this time around, I'm taking what I've learned. I have now built up a much better support system. I have accountability. I have dear friends who I can jump on Marco Polo, the app that we chat on, and say, I feel like I am avoiding this email today. Can you follow up with me later and make sure that I sent it? Because I become avoidant when I'm tired and when I'm moving toward burnout. This is a very, like I said, candid heart-to-heart talk. You're getting the inside scoop. I'm pulling back the curtain and being very honest and vulnerable. All that to say, those are signs that I know to be aware of this time around, and I am nipping them in the bud. So here are some things that I'm doing. Number one, simplifying my menu and offerings. This is a big one that I do regularly. If I am in a season of overwhelm, I will temporarily cut back. Customers often appreciate and respond well to a smaller menu, fewer options, and they certainly respect and appreciate that you as the baker are doing what you can, but not wearing yourself out. So for me, what this looks like, for example, last week's pre-order menu was very lean. It was just my regular bread, my sandwich bread, my focaccia, and my cookies. And I had a rather low quantity of each. They were for a market pickup, and it sold out. I think I had maybe one bag of cookies left that people could have ordered, but everything else sold. This week's pre-order menu is a little bit larger. I have some English muffins on there and some pumpkin muffins, as well as my core sourdough bread and sandwich bread. I dropped the focaccia for this week because to me that just felt like too much to do the original and the sandwich bread and focaccia. So I'm doing those, and then I pretty much always have chocolate chip cookies. Those are easy to prep ahead, and I would have them in the freezer. So I cut back when I'm overwhelmed. and I lean into my core products. And then if it feels like it makes sense, I add on like one boost item. For me, that's the pumpkin muffins this week. The next thing that I do is revisit boundaries. So sometimes I realize that I have said yes to too many extras. Maybe it's a collaboration that was not a wholehearted yes, or I kind of tried to like squeeze into my schedule, but really it didn't fit great. To be totally honest, I do not do a lot of those anymore. Unless if they are an easy, absolute yes, wholeheartedly, my schedule works great. Most of the time, I do not say yes to things like events, collaborations, definitely not special orders in the season. It's important to remember, and sometimes I need to remind myself of this too, but no is a complete sentence. Sometimes you can just say, no, I don't have the capacity for that right now. Leave it at that. No apology, no deep, in depth explanation of why you don't have the capacity, but just a simple, respectful decline. It's a gift ultimately to your customers, to your family, to yourself when you protect your energy, and holding those boundaries is a great way to do that. If your current business model has you saying yes to special orders, or if you say yes when someone just texts in and says, hey, can I have a loaf on Tuesday? And you don't have a set schedule, I would highly encourage you to start to move toward a set, predictable bake schedule. I see this with a lot of people who are earlier on in their business because it's easy when you get just a couple of orders a week to squeeze them in everywhere. But the sooner you start a regular, predictable schedule, the easier it's going to be to teach your customers and the better it's going to protect your energy for the long run. So this is a really big one, especially for those who are just in the early stages. Set a predictable schedule. Choose the day that you're going to prep, the day you're going to bake, and the day that people will pick up. Let them know what day to order and let them know what to expect and be consistent. Follow that same schedule week after week, and you'll find that your customers respect it. They learn when to order, when to pick up. That predictability only helps them. They will, over time, stop asking you for the one-offs here and there because they'll know exactly what to expect and they'll be able to plan ahead and know when to order to have their bread. Okay, the third thing to do to prevent from burnout is to build in real rest. This can be really hard, but by this, I don't mean sitting on the couch after the kids go to bed and scrolling on your phone. By real rest, I mean actual regenerative, restorative downtime. This can be so difficult, I know, but it can look like taking a walk without the phone. It can look like cooking a family meal together if that's something that brings you joy. Maybe trying a brand new recipe. Over the weekend, I baked some really fun recipes. I actually even made a yeasted bread recipe for my husband per his birthday request. And that was really fun. It was fun to do something that was not sourdough and that kind of stretched the types of items that I've baked before. They were kind of a whole new category of desserts, and that was fun. Maybe reading a fictional book. For me, just a 30-minute reset, maybe a warm bath at the end of the day can shift the whole tone. One of my favorite ways to do this is 30 minutes in the sauna. I know that's a luxury. I only have a sauna because it was my parents and we kind of are babysitting it, I guess. And so I do try to take advantage of it because I do feel like my energy throughout the day is more steady and ultimately it helps. I just feel healthier. So if that's an option for you, that's something that you could try. Just a quiet, meditative few minutes in the sauna, or even just sitting on the porch and drinking your coffee. Think about ways where you can mindfully slow down, even if it's not taking a nap or even if it's not an early bedtime, but how can you put away the pressures of work and sit in slowness for just a little bit and allow yourself to just breathe and reset without any pressure. Again, I know that feels hard. And if you sit down or step out for a walk or whatever it is, and you are just like, I can't be taking this time, that is a red flag. That is a sign that you need to be taking that time. I've had seasons where, like with that past business, I would go and try to take a 20 or 30-minute walk around the neighborhood and find myself so stressed at the work that I knew I needed to be doing at home that I took the shortcut to get home rather than taking the full walk. And that, looking back, I kind of was aware then, but definitely I'm hyper aware now. That was a huge indicator that I was spread too thin and I was on a fast track to burnout. All right, the next thing is to check my rhythms. Am I baking at times that align with my natural energy? If you're a morning person, are you doing the hardest work when your energy is highest? Or are you setting up yourself for failure by trying to push through late at night? Maybe it feels like late at night is the time where you can get the most done, when in reality, you are cutting yourself short on rest, and maybe you could use some 30-minute blocks here and there to get a little bit of prep work done. Maybe pre-measure your ingredients a couple of days early during a 30-minute daytime block rather than trying to cram in all that work late at night. And then the last one is ask for help. This one's so big. I've already talked about it. I am actively working on hiring an assistant. That is going to be so crucial as I move into my brick and mortar space. I have a virtual assistant, a VA, and I lean on her for a lot of like editing the podcast and getting it published. And I am even right now trying to take a little bit more off of my plate and hand it off to her, so that she can help kind of take some things that typically I would just muscle through, and she's going to help support. I am not great at asking for help from my mother-in-law with my children, but that is something that I am also trying to work on in this season too. And then even like I mentioned, my friend coming in and helping me just with manual labor here in the bakery earlier today, that was really helpful. It's humbling, but it's okay to be humbled. We need that. And that is how we build businesses that last. One thing that I am very mindful of in this business as I am moving from my home bakery into a much higher pressure storefront where I will have regular retail hours. I will have people who come into the bakery during the hours that we're open, and they're going to have certain expectations, and I need to be able to fulfill them. If I am trying to do every single thing all by myself and feel like I can do it better than everyone else, so I can't pass it off, or whatever that message is that we tell ourselves, or it would be too much work to train someone, I am crippling myself. I am handicapping. I'm becoming the bottleneck. Very aware of that. I'm aware that I need to build a team that knows how to run the bakery without me in it. If I get sick, if I want to travel, I need to build up a team that does not rely solely on me. So I get to be the visionary in the long-term vision, and I get to kind of come in and help support the team. But really, ultimately, the vision, the plan, the goal in this space will be for the team to be able to confidently be empowered to make decisions and know what needs to be done without me being here to completely run the show. That is a longer term vision. And if you, as a home baker, you likely are not building a full team. Maybe you have an assistant. Maybe you have kiddos who help you out. And you can be thinking about ways that you can delegate tasks to them too. I love to pay my kids a couple dollars to stick stickers, labels on bread bags too. There are a lot of ways where you can kind of get creative about delegating and receiving support. So if you're in a busy season, think about which one of these you could put into practice. Maybe you don't try every single one, but I would say prioritize rest for sure. And those small changes will add up. So as we wrap up, my challenge to you is to take just 5 minutes today and do your own self-audit. Ask yourself where burnout might be creeping in, if there are any yellow flags. Maybe they're not red flags yet, But maybe there's little things here and there that you can tweak and proactively protect against burnout, because that is when it matters. Before you're exhausted, before you're stretched thin, before every little thing has you on the verge of tears. Burnout is not a badge of honor. It is not honorable. It's not something to be proud of if we are muscling through and just relying on our own strength and our independence to get all the things done. Your bakery, your business, your family, they don't just need you to produce. They need you whole, healthy, present. And these small signs of burnout, where it might be creeping in, allowing yourself to pay attention and commit to just one preventative step that feels doable is going to help preserve your energy and the longevity of your business in the long run. So thank you so much for sending this very vulnerable, very honest, candid conversation with me today. I hope it felt encouraging. I hope this maybe made you feel less alone. If you are like me and you're in a very full season and feeling like you have more to do than you have time, I hope this feels like permission to let something go, to say no to something, to put a pause on something and know that it will be there. For example, sharing a podcast episode 4 days late. I know you, sweet listeners, are going to be here to support me. And if I push through and force myself to record an episode when I, in reality, am exhausted and don't have time, I am not doing a great job of practicing what I preach. That feels hypocritical. And so I felt the best decision was to give myself a couple days and be consistent in what I'm teaching and what I'm practicing for you. So all that to say, if this episode resonated, if it encouraged you, if maybe you know someone who would be encouraged by it, share it with another baker. Maybe share it on Instagram, tag me, and I will reshare it if I catch it. I am so honored that you spent some time with me in your ears today. I hope if you are hands in the dough, that this felt like a friend just chatting with you. As always, I am so thankful for you. I will be back soon with another episode, but until then, happy baking.